Alright, what's up guys? VV back with another video. Today I want to talk about One Piece TCG, and I want to talk a little bit about 5 points. 5 points in the game that I just had on my mind. I want to share with you guys. I want to see what y'all think about it. And I think these 5 points are directly linked to, I guess, like some potential balance issues in my opinion. And it's kind of what I wanted to talk more about when they did the restrictions on Whitebeard and Radical Beam and Marco. I didn't see those as being the right answer to the perceived problems at hand, right? So I just want to, let me read these 5 points here, and then we're going to go over some examples of what I think is the actual issue in the current state of the game. And this is just my opinion, guys. So take it or leave it. But by all means, share your opinion in the comment section below. Tell me what you think. Do you think I'm way off with this? You think I'm onto something? You tell me. Maybe you're impartial to it. So 1 through 5 real quick. So number 1, starting life. Let me read through all of them, then we'll go over them one by one. So starting life I see as an issue. Tempo / leader ability. And not an issue. It's not so much I see starting life as an issue. I see an issue with starting life with certain leaders. Tempo and leader ability. Triggers, card draw, searchers, and time to set up. I should say it like this. I'm sorry, guys. I came about that the wrong way. This is what you want your leader to have in your deck to consist of if you want to win the game. These 5 things right here. If you're trying to win, if you're trying to be successful at One Piece, these are the things you're going for. You want a decent enough starting life because that gives you extra time to set up. You need enough tempo to put, decent bodies down, effective, efficient characters down so that you can present threats for your opponent to have to answer or you win. You need, triggers or at least 2K counters or both, right? Like that's the idea there. And then last but not least, card draw and searchers. Like this is just like the recipe for a winning deck, just speaking very generically. So first and foremost, I want to go over starting life. This is the problem that I see. Whoops, what just happened? Okay, so this is the problem that I see with One Piece currently. Man, look what it did to all this stuff. It like messed up everything when I did that. Okay, let me leave it like that so I can drag it over there and grab it. All right. So let's take a look at these deck lists real quick, guys. So here you go. This is at a 1,000 player tournament, July 29th. At the time of me recording this, it's August 3rd. Okay, so this list here was 1,000 players all trying to win a huge regional tournament. It was online, but it was a regional tournament. You'll notice something. Every single deck, with the exception of one, every single deck, with the exception of one deck, is monocolored. And the deck that won just so happens to have 6 life, as opposed to everyone else having 5. Now, Trafalgar Law is the one exception with 4. But when we go back to what we were talking about here, try not to blow my screen up again, man. Remember what we were talking about here? The reason that he can compensate for not having 5 life cards is the tempo he generates with his leader ability and with his cards. And the way that his, I should say on-play effects as well with triggers, but whatever, y'all get the point. And then all his card draw and searchers. He runs like, Law runs about 12 searchers, right? Dadan, Nami, and Bonnie, right? So that gives him a little extra time to set up because he hides behind a wall of blockers, fills out the board effectively. You get the idea there. Okay, please don't do that again. There we go. I did not want that to happen again. So, okay. Now let's take a look at a more broader picture here. So let me hit F5s. Just, this is refreshed. These come in at July 31st. This was literally 4 days ago. All right. OnePieceTopDecks.com is the website I'm on. OnePieceTopDecks.com. So this is the Western format. This is, the English format. I think they just call it the Western format, OP03. Well, notice something here. It's not just red decks. People like say, oh, look how many red decks there are. Yeah, there's a lot of red decks, but there's also a lot of red leaders. Right, a lot of like iconic red leaders like Whitebeard and Zoro. And yes, their abilities are very strong. I'm not dismissing how strong their abilities are. But Whitebeard has 6 life. Okay, so this is the winning Whitebeard list from not too long ago for me recording this, about 5 days ago. Whitebeard has 6 life. So think about what that means for a second. Let me bring this back up. We have to talk about this, guys. The more starting life you have, the more triggers you're going to have access to coming out of your life, the more cards you're going to draw, and the more time you have to set up. Just period. That's just a fact, right? It just is what it is. You know, and like with any card game, okay, this is a card game. The more cards I have in my hand, the better my chances are of winning, right? The more options I have, and if I have more options than my opponent, I can make more effective choices with my cards, and I can win games more effectively. So the more cards I draw, the better. And that's why a lot of people like to go second in this game, too. And in a lot of card games, some people enjoy going second because you draw an extra card, right? You start drawing a card immediately. And in this game, you'll start taking life the next turn. So it's like you just drew, like, you'll draw 3 cards over the course of your first 2 turns. You know, you see what I'm saying? And you can't even, anyway, let me not get too far off the beaten path here. But, yeah, I think you guys see what I'm trying to say, or know where I'm going with this. I just think that there's a serious, there's a reason why, let me say it like this. I don't know why, I should have just hit back, whatever. There's a reason why you're not going to see any multicolored leaders on this list, outside of Law, and a few exceptions in extremely tiny tournaments, right? Like, okay, I don't know what this Gark deck, I have no idea what that tournament looked like, because it doesn't even have the number on the side, so it was a little store championship. There are going to be exceptions. This didn't win, but it got second place. That's worth mentioning. But check it out. You tell me if you see what I don't. I mean, these are just straight mono-colored decks outside of Law. And that's it, man. That's all you're going to see. And we got a Sanji won a 16-player tournament. We got a Sanji list. Okay? There you go. Go back. All right. Like I said, you'll see some random exceptions. Like now, Big Mom is a little bit different. The yellow, the decks that can splash yellow is a little bit different, a little bit interesting, because you can gain life through their abilities, right? Like you can gain life from this hero's ability. If you need to pause it and read it, by all means, go ahead. But you can gain life from Katakuri. You can gain life from Charlotte Linlin. You can gain life from where's the other one? Where's the 10 cost? Is he not run? Oh, here it is. The 10 cost. So again, while your starting life might be low, either your leader ability or your cards, that you're generating tempo with, they're giving you additional time to set up, which is allowing you to have more triggers from your life and draw more cards. Like it'll always relate back to these 5 things, I feel like, in one way or another. Okay? Like the exceptions. If you see any exceptions on this list, by all means point out if I don't see them, because I'm looking through all of them. We even got an Kuro with a win here, 25-player tournament. But yeah, I mean, there you go, guys. I mean, just every single one of these lists is going to have 5 life or more, right? 5 life or more, like with Whitebeard. And red-green being the only exception because of how absolutely absurd, this deck is. The Law's ability, for those who don't know, you pay 2 to play a 5 cost, so that's a 3 cost reduction. And the 5 costs you typically are going to play is something like Trafalgar Law, this blocker, who, number one, he's a 6k blocker for 5. You just played him for 2 Dawn, right? If you fill the board out, you do have to fill the board out. But if you play him, now you bounce back a Searcher, so now you have more card draw to play a 3 cost or less, like a Zoro or a Bonnie or whatever. So for 2 Dawn, you just saved 6 Dawn. You played 8 Dawn for 2. And people who are saying, well, that requires setup. Yeah, but you're running 12 Searchers to do that setup. Nami, Dedan, and Bonnie. And you're sitting behind a bunch of little 1-cost blockers and Chopper and Beige. I mean, it's a well-made deck, okay? I'm not discrediting the deck. And I think it does require some skill to play properly. I'm just trying to say that there's a reason that this is the only deck that is making it, that is not monocolored. And it's because the hero, I would argue the leader's ability is a little bit too strong. Not the red cards are too strong. The red cards are very strong, right? But let's not forget at the end of the day, Sakazuki just KOs a Luffy. When this turns sideways, you can deal with it. It's just a matter of, like, how are you setting it up? Are you going to actually play this for 5 Dawn? No. You're going to play this for 2 Dawn in this deck. Whereas with Zoro, you're going to see Luffy in, like, Zoro decks as well, because they're going to put on so much pressure early on in the game through these 1 costs and Magra, buffing them. This is like a Makino for those who don't know. Or is it Otama or Makino? I always get them back. Yeah, Makino. Where it's plus 3,000 for the turn. He's still a 1k counter. And then you deal your lethal blow with him. They can't even block it. Just boom, I'm swinging sideways for 8k unblockable. Or 9k if you had Zoro down with the Dawn on him. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, there are very strong cards for red, but I like that there are some strong cards for red. But my issue is more or less, like, I'm okay with what Zoro is. It is healthy to have a format where there is a red deck that is like a, you know, a aggro deck. That is a healthy format, right? But the problem is when you have cards that are just slightly too powerful like this, and then cards that are slightly underpowered, leaders that are underpowered, something like Z, right? Like, let me just kind of segue into this for a little bit. Like, oh, this leader's real good. He can just swing for 6k, right? He can get buff up to 6k with his ability, KO a Zoro, and then keep going, right? Well, no, you go down 4 Dawn. That's not the worst part, though. The worst part is you only have 4 life to set all this up. You see what I'm saying? Like I feel like that is the more serious issue. And you'll see people, they'll play Smoker. You'll gladly play Smoker or Rob Lucci over Z because you have 5 life. Like, who has a better ability? Like, arguably, Rob Lucci has a better ability than Z, but he has 5 life. Like, that's just always going to get you there. Yeah, that's like what's going to give you that extra turn of setup. But I don't know. It depends on the situation. If you're going more aggro, Rob Lucci's ability is definitely better, but Z's is a better overall ability, in my personal opinion. Because how often are you going to be able to discard 2 cards from your hand? You know what I mean? Like, how realistically, how many times are you going to get to use this ability, this leader's ability? You know. Whereas Z's, you can just do it for the whole game. You just keep doing it because you're going to gain 2 Dawn every turn. So, you know, as you're playing through, you're going to start generating, like, everyone knows who plays against Z. The way it goes is you go, all right, turn 5 on curve. I'll play Kuzan 10 cost, right? Reduce everyone's cost by 5 on my turn permanently. And I'll KO a 5 cost or less with my Kuzan going down. And then you swing with Z. You return 4 Dawn, rested Dawn, to your Dawn deck. This guy's swinging for 6 now and KOing an 8 or less. That's why that's good. But here's the problem. That seems insanely broken, doesn't it? Well, you only have 4 life, so it doesn't even matter. you just can't last. It's impossible. Because aggro decks will just run you over. You just simply don't have enough to make it that late into the game. At least that's how it seems to me. Y'all tell me if you think it's a little different. Because we're about to look at OP04, and what do you think about this guy? How is this card not being played, like, at the rate that people expected it to be played at? 5,000 power. Great ability. Dawn times 1, give -1 cost to all of your opponent's characters, and then end of your turn, pay 1 to set one of your characters active that costs 5 or less. He's Navy, has access to all the Navy cards. Doesn't matter. Like, who knows? People might break it later, but I think the actual problem is having 4 life. That's really my thesis for this whole thing, is the life. And like, going back to this, the less life you have, the less triggers you're going to have, the less card draw you're going to have, and the less time you're going to have to set up. Yes, you can still get access to searchers, and in fact, the only way to make up for this starting life problem is to have an insane leader ability, or, yeah, that's pretty much it. Insane tempo and leader ability with a strong searcher base, because that's going to allow you to set up. It's going to force them to swing into that and give you more time to set up. So that's, yeah. Okay. What else do we got here? Let me go into, so again, so OP03, again, you're not going to see a single card over here that has 5 or more life, or, excuse me, 4 life. So you might be thinking, oh, here's an Arlong right here. Here we go. 19-player tournament and a 9-player tournament. Arlong snuck in some wins. I think that was when the list was first coming out, so like early in the season. Of the OP03 season. Let me see. Let me go down to the bottom. Yeah, so there's only 11 entries. We'll look at it. Like, yeah, on the other page, there might be some from just random people winning in, like, these little store tournaments, you know, that are at the beginning of the OP03 season. But once things stabilize, you see where it goes. It goes not just red, guys. There's some green stuff on here as well. There's some blue stuff on here as well. Okay, but it is only going to be 5 costs or less. Like, look at this 6th place Katakuri deck. That's good. That's a solid placement. Lucci in here, first place, doesn't say what kind of how many people are at the tournament. But yeah, I think that is the more common trend, is the 5 life or higher leaders. And now let's even go into OP04. Let's see if anything changes in the East. Okay, here we got Dofi. So let's see if we can justify this with the things I just said. right? Like, okay, well, how is he going to win? I don't know how big this tournament was. He got first place at a flagship. Well, how are we going to justify it? Well, the only way to justify it, is he must have insane tempo and leader ability with access to good card draw searchers and time to set up. Oh, what do you know? Like, that's literally all this card is. Or all this deck is straight tempo through this, through cards like Luffy. Tons of time to set up with great blockers. Number one, Luffy's a blocker as well. You got Uda blocker, you got Queen blocker. You've got insane card draw through Queen, through Guild Tessero. You've got great 2K counters, extremely strong in-game characters. And then you got look at all these events that you can play. You can always, consistently, like, I can't stress that enough. There will never be a turn that you cannot use one of these on defense because your leader's ability is so good. At the end of your turn, you're going up to 2 Dawn. Okay? You're setting 2 Dawn cards as active. So, okay, this is fine with him having only 4 life because of how his ability is and because of how the tempo he can generate with the film package and with the searchers and with the card draw, the blockers, the tempo, everything. It all adds up. Okay? Perfect. Like, and still, by the way, all monocolor decks here. Now, people are starting to mess with, at the time of me recording this, they're starting to mess with this new leader here. This is the ST10, the starter deck number 10, Luffy. People are just messing with this. We'll see if it actually takes off. I wouldn't be surprised if it does because it has 6,000 power. That's almost like gaining a few life, right? Because now they can't swing for 5k every turn with their leader. They have to actually, attach to that. 6,000 power might be a way to get around this. Right, 6,000 power might be a way to get around this, but we'll have to see. I don't know. We'll see how this pans out. But this is an interesting leader. Okay, another Dofi deck, and then these are it says Zoro, but these aren't Zoro. These are Trafalgar Law decks because you see the red green. Okay, one more Luffy deck, and then we just got a bunch of 5-color decks or 5-life monocolor decks, or 6 in the case of Newgate. This is a 3-on-3. We're not going to count that for obvious reasons. Here's a little 16-player tournament that a Zephyr won. Very cool. Very nice. I always love when Zephyr wins. I like when any of the decks win that have black in them, like I run. But yeah, just again, more 5-life cards or 5-life leaders. Then we get to Rebecca, dual color. But guess what? 5-life. She has everything we talked about. Whereas she has starting life of 5. She has tempo, great leader ability, triggers, 2k counters, everything. She has card draw, searchers. She has a built-in search and plenty of time to set up. So, of course, she's going to be a good deck that's winning a lot of stuff right now. Okay, we're not going to go to the list, though. Y'all get what's going on here. This purple-green Dofi is like the one exception now with Law. Like, the purple-green Dofi and Law are now the only decks that can make it with 4 life or less. They're the only ones. And we'll see what happens. There's a little placement for Vivi. Nice. At a 100-person tournament, got 2nd place. But again, has 5 life. Queen. Now, yellow decks, like I said, I think those can have an exception there. But isn't that sad, though, when, like, okay, how do I explain this? Like, we see all these lists, like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep saying like, I just don't know what to say sometimes. Let me just sort by leader. Okay, boom, boom, boom. All right. You start looking at these, all right, it's going to show some cards that aren't leaders for whatever reason. But look at all these leaders that you're just never going to see. Okay, this Luffy you might see every now and then because it does have red and green. But again, that's just a testimony to how broken Law is. Like, why even run this card if Law exists? Exists in the state it's in. Blurple Kaido. Don't really see that deck popping up. Blurple Crocodile. Don't see that popping up. You know, I do think, I did hear that Kaido was decent, like, in the beginning of the lists, but, you know, I think that had a lot to do with people still figuring out the game. Garp, you'll see randomly at a local, you know, but not winning anything big. Hopefully I get proven wrong, because I love the Garp deck ideas. They're really cool. Sanji, again, like, not going to be able to see this pop off. Z, you'll see every now and then randomly. Arlong, randomly again. In fact, I think at the tournament, the most recent one that I've been looking at, this was for the online regionals on July 29th. Arlong got 390th place. That was the highest placing for it. 366 for Lin Lin. Now, Odin and Kaido, I'm not going to talk about that. Garp, 235th place. That's pretty good considering there were only 3 Garp players. I actually think that's kind of good. Participation is relevant. But again, why even participate if you're not going to play one of these decks that have 5 life or more? Or have insane abilities like the Trafalgar Law one. But yeah, I mean, there you go, guys. I think that's really... I don't have much more to say. I'll keep talking for a little bit because I do want to go over a few more of these leaders. And even some 5 life leaders aren't making it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, oh, if you have 5 life, it fixes all your problems. What I'm really saying is if you have 4 life, you better have one unbelievable package of cards or it's not going to work. And leader ability. Right. That's really more like what I'm trying to say. So I think that's about it, though, guys. I definitely want to know what y'all have to say. I think yellow can get away with having 4 life because they are able to gain life. We'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, that's mostly all I wanted to talk about. Is that I think one of the biggest issues right now is not so much that red is too strong, because all right, let me whoops, I was trying to do that thing to my screen again. If we go back to this list, let me go to... All right, at the top 20 tables, right? Here we go. So this is top 20 tables. Okay, Lucci is having a rough time against Zoro and Katakuri. Trafalgar Law, it's beating pretty well. Let me find something else. All right, Katakuri. This is a better example. Katakuri's doing just fine against Zoro, a red deck. But I don't know. That's it. See, now there is an argument. You know, people do have the argument for red being slightly too strong. But again, how do y'all think it would change the meta if all of a sudden certain multicolor or dual-colored leaders got access to 5 life? Because you have to remember, I think I mentioned this earlier, but Z doesn't have access to all purple and black cards. That's one thing like a lot of people don't understand. Searchers are extremely relevant. You're only going to be able to search with certain cards. But he also doesn't have access to all the cards. Like for example, let me X out of this and go to just Kaido. Okay. Okay, I run purple as Z, right? Well, okay, I'll run Kaido. 10 costs 12k, and he can destroy everything when he enters play, right? No, sorry. On play, Dawn -6. If your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates type, then you can KO all characters other than this one. And then there are some cards that are just strangely exclusive, like Spandam. Is it going to search? There we go. Like, okay, let me just pick this one because we can read it. Like, look at this. If your leader has CP in its types, you're going to exclude Spandam to Rob Lucci only? That is so strange to me, guys. So guess what? Oh, if you splash black and you're running like, go back to the leaders, right? Let me go back to the leader search. Oh, there we go. Like, oh, I'm running Garp, right? Or Z. Okay, I can use Z again, or I can use Garp, or I can use Isho. Where's Isho at? Like, oh, I'm going to run an Isho deck. Man, I really want to include the CP package in there, right? Because it has access to Kaku, it has access to Fukuro, Bluno, Khalifa. I'll splash that in with the Navy package, right? Nope, sorry, you can't do that because your leader's not CP type. How frustrating is that? How infuriating is that? So again, I think this restriction of 4 life on a multicolored or dual-colored leader is too steep. I don't think it's necessary because, again, it goes back to what I'm saying, or my theory, my working theory here, is that starting life is so important. If you're not... Okay, again, if you start off with 5 life, you're going to draw an extra card over the course of the game over someone who started with only 4 life as a dual color leader. And you're going to get an extra turn to set up. And you're going to have extra access to triggers. You know, you'll have more answers. You're going to draw more cards. It's just, it's so devastating, guys. And I feel like, I don't know. I don't know what they could do to fix it at this point. But I do want to know what y'all have to say about it. Do y'all think I'm onto something with it, or am I just way off? Is red just broken by itself? And I don't dismiss that red is slightly overpowered. I don't dismiss that. I have serious problems with cards in the format that are like. Let me go back up. What is this like? This is OP04. Let me go to OP03 real quick, guys. See, here's my thing. I don't have an issue with the fact that there is where is he? Edward Newgate in the format. I don't have an issue with Radical Beam. I don't have an issue with 4-cost Marco. Because, you know, think about it. There are decks that can deal with this that other decks can't, so it creates a balance, right? It's hard for black to deal with a card like this because we destroy things, you know, we KO them, and he can, like, prevent that, right? Potentially. But I have more of a problem with the fact that you can run, like, 7 or more searchers, you know, 8 or more searchers in a deck. Like, this one just runs 7. I like, that's a personal thing for me. I think there's too much search power in this game, and I know that's like how Bandai does things, but I don't know. That's just one of my pet peeves there. Whoops, my phone's vibrating. But yeah, I'm gonna try to wrap up there. I don't have much else to say. I really feel like what I was saying is the issue. I feel like the reason we're not seeing any multicolor leaders outside of Trafalgar Law on OP03 and Doflamingo on OP04, the reason we are not seeing any dual color leaders winning is because of this specific reason right here. They are only starting with 4 life. They have 1 less turn to set up. They're drawing 1 less card than their opponent. I mean, in the case of Edward Newgate, like, okay, think of it like this. Like, okay, for Newgate, you start with 5 cards in hand like everybody else. You're going to draw an entire hand over the course of the game with a normal character. Newgate's going to draw 6 cards over the course of the game from his life. Guys, that's more than your starting life total. I don't know. Y'all tell me if I'm crazy, man. All right, I'm going to end it there. I don't have much more else to say on it anyway. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. I just want to know what y'all think. How do y'all think we can fix this lack of representation from multicolored, dual-colored leaders at the highest ranks? Because I'm just going to leave this up one more time. I can leave up this one. It doesn't matter which one I leave up, honestly. They're all roughly about the same. Let me leave up this one, I guess. Like, how do you fix the lack of representation of dual-colored leaders? I personally think could be giving them 1 extra life. And people who might be thinking like, no, that would break it, that'd be too strong. Are you sure? Are you sure they're just going to steamroll over Edward Newgate now? Because just think about this, guys. Everyone thinks that all the red cards are broken. Look at Newgate. Almost a 62% win rate across the board. His only weakness being Eustace Kid. And look at this. At the top 20 tables, 67% win rate. Guys, that's wild, man. What a coincidence, man. What a coincidence that he's up there. But I don't know. Could be a coincidence. Maybe it's just because he's red, right? I still think it has to do with life. Y'all try to convince me otherwise, or tell me if you agree, or whatever. Y'all tell me what y'all think. All right, guys. I'm going to end it there. Hope y'all enjoyed. And until next time, guys. Peace.